Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. I'm Eoin Devereux, and with me, Casper Wehrhahn, and we are here with you today, before we get into the paper, just to talk a little bit about the week that was in a different perspective, in that this time last week, we were walking out of the studio after taping our show, and we were just learning ourselves of the tragedy of the auto accident that occurred near Carberry. And as the week has progressed, we have learned more and more about this tragedy and how it's unraveled and how many communities in Western Manitoba have had to deal with it. Especially obviously Dauphin and surrounding region, as most, unfortunately, of the 16 victims of that auto accident are from the Dauphin area. Just a few minutes before we started recording here, in fact, they named off the names of those individuals who passed away. We watched it in the office. It was, even though we didn't know these people personally, it was still a very stirring an emotional sort of reaction from, at least from myself, to say the least. And I just wanted to talk very quickly about that. And in connection to the Banner and Press, when it occurred, we tried to get the information as best we could, and we put our story on our website, mywestman.ca, to update people. And we didn't want to do it in a sensational manner. That's unfortunately a way a lot of national and global media does things. A perfect example is the Titanic submersive situation that is unfolding as well this week. And you're seeing examples of that type of sensationalism, and we don't want to do that. We're a local paper. We try to do these types of things respectfully. And that brings up another thing I wanted to talk to you about very quickly. When you pick up this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner Press, the June 23rd edition, you're going to see a little bit of reaction. We have a columnist who talks about the accident and the ramifications behind it. We have a letter giving their sincerest sort of thoughts and prayers in regard to it. But you will not see, per se, the article that we have on mywestman.ca. You will not see it in print on the page. And that was a specific decision made, and it was my decision that I made. So, and the reason for this, and that's why I'm sitting here to a degree to talk to you about this, the reason is a week after the fact, there'd been a period of time where there was no new news that had come out from it. And quite honestly, daily papers, daily radio, daily television can do a better job of informing you in the moment of a situation like this. So I don't want you to think it was in any way disrespectful, because it was most certainly not the case. A weekly paper, a weekly community paper, such as the Banner and Press, can only do some things, and some things we can do very well. And what we can do very well is inform you of the local stories that those media I just talked about can't cover or don't even know about. Quite honestly, Casper has done an amazing job this week with several stories we're going to be talking about. I've got a few in there as well. And these are stories you're only going to get here on the pages of the Banner and Press. You're not going to get them, respectfully, in the Brandon Sun. You're not going to get them on CKOQ Brandon. You're not going to get them on CTV Winnipeg or CBC Winnipeg. You're only going to find them here. So that's our decision. We decided to play to our strengths on this. So I don't want you to think that we ignored it or set that aside. We very much wanted to show respectfully and inform you, which we did. But there are others, like the Brandon Sun, like CKOQ, that can do it better than us. And I do hope that you go to those sources to get your information, to learn more. I just wanted to put that out there, because if you opened up the pages and you didn't see it in there and you were curious why, that's why. Ultimately, it was my decision. There were other local stories that you couldn't get anywhere else that filled that space. If that is something you're not happy with, I can understand that. I did what I thought was right for the paper in that case. But please, I just wanted to sort of acknowledge that and acknowledge what had occurred and send my condolences. I'm not personally a very spiritual person, but I can understand spirituality in a time like this that can offer comfort, maybe some solace to those families. So I do very much send my regards to those families that are dealing with something that's so difficult to even comprehend, and to the community of Dauphin. I don't know what else to add to this, Casper. I mean, you just as well sort of went through all the similar things, like the shock of it all in the moment.
Yeah, it was a definitely hard time in the office hearing that news the day of, and definitely for some time after. And you still feel it, but obviously not to the same degree that the people in those communities, the families are feeling it right now. So my condolences to all of you.
We're going to try and shift forward as best we can with the news of the day for Neepawa. And there's no easy way to segue, especially when it comes to what we have on our front page. Because in our front page, it was a celebration within our community. A celebration of heritage, a celebration of culture, a celebration of new arrivals and establishing families in our community for Filipino heritage. During every June, there is a huge celebration that occurs in Neepawa, and it seems to be getting bigger and better each and every year. It's a parade that they run and a sort of a celebratory dinner and event that they hold at the Yellowhead each and every evening during that. This year it occurred June 17th. I had the opportunity to go out and see the parade with my own eyes, get a bunch of pictures, which you can see on the front page of this week's edition. As well, more pictures you can find on page 19. We also went online, and we do appreciate and acknowledge NCSA portal for some great pictures as well. We appreciate that. And as well, let me see here. Oh, my eyes aren't what they used to be. John Luigi Pito, who we've used before, his pictures. He's given us permission. We also used one of his pictures. And Chris Waddell as well. On the front page, there's one from Chris Waddell that from the event at the arena. So it in a montage sort of way, it sort of shows off, if you weren't able to see it with your own eyes, to be able to see part of the festivities. And it was, holy cow, Casper, it was, I acknowledge fully, it was unbelievable.
It definitely looks like it's, of course, was out of town that day, but looking at the wonderful photos that everyone took, you can just so easily see all of the effort and passion that went into this event, as has been done in previous years. And yeah, I gotta say, they really just sort of somehow managed to up it even more compared to last year. Like, we don't have a photo in there this week from it, but there was a float that, they like sculpted a bird for the float. Like, it was like 3D everything, and it was just like really incredible. And of course, seeing the crowd's enthusiasm as well. We have one of those crowd shots on page 19 from one of the championship games that was held, because there was, of course, a lot of sports going on as well. And just everyone is so enthusiastic and riled up, and they all have their hands in the air. They're really getting into it, so that's awesome to see. And just all the dances that were showcased as well, just absolutely marvelous, and I hope I can attend sometime in the future.
Most definitely. It was a great day, a lot of festivities. The weather was near perfect for it as well. So if you weren't able to be there in person, perhaps pick up a copy of the Banner Press, and you'll be able to experience it vicariously through the page. All right, let's go, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, some of the stories that Casper covered. Casper, you got a bunch of these here. You were out and about quite a bit last week. First one over by Neepawa Middle School, and there was a little bit of celebratory action happening over there as well.
Yeah, this week has been an interesting week for me. I had a few items on my list to begin with, but then I sort of ended up getting a bit more things coming in. It's just like, oh, okay, I'll add this in there. And this happened to be one of those things. The Neepawa Middle School was having a family night that was on June 15th. It was a lovely evening, and actually this times really well with the other events of the week, of course, the Filipino Heritage Month celebration going on, because some of the individuals that performed there, because there was some live music performances, dance performances, and some really nice puns, some jokes, some riddles told there live at the family event. Some of those groups were actually using that event as practice for their performances at the cultural event that was held here on June 17th. So,
nice. Sneak preview.
Yeah, got a little bit of a sneak preview, but there was more than that as well. There was like face painting, balloon animals. There was a raffle draw as well to help fund one of the camping trips that is coming up for the middle school. So it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of people there. Everyone brought out their lawn chairs or camping chairs, blankets, whatever, and they just all sat, enjoyed the performances, conversed with each other, enjoyed the evening, and of course enjoyed the new playground as well. There was a lot of kids there using it and enjoying it to its full extent.
That's right. Since we have shifted over into the summer solstice, and we're now into the, as they say, the longest daylight hours of the year. They're taking full advantage of that, going out, these celebratory events, maybe even bicycling around. But you need a bicycle to be able to actually bicycle around, don't you? Fortunately, Casper, there was a little bit of a rodeo that was going on that hooked up some kids out there, didn't it?
Yeah, so if you're unfamiliar, as well this past week on June 14th, right before the middle school events, there was a bike rodeo held by the King Club here in partnership with Manitoba Public Insurance, which sort of got kids together and gave them a bit of instruction on, bike safety, how to, properly wear helmets, etc. Important things that you need to do when you're out biking, watching out for pedestrians, etc. And ran them through all that information and then had them go through a little course that they had set up to put their knowledge into practice. And it looked like it was a great time. There was a good number of kids out there going through the course, and it seemed to go over quite well.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And it's a very good idea. Bike safety, very significant, should be taught. I'm just sitting here thinking right now, because back when I was a kid, these types of courses weren't really, for the most part, a thing. Hell, wearing helmets wasn't a thing. And that explains a lot right now for the viewer, doesn't it? It really does, knock on wood.
Dent, maybe.
This divot's from when I tried to jump the creek. And that's why I don't remember multiplication. But again, it's great for kids to be out and about like that, cycling around the community. And even was a pretty good, as long as you avoid some of the bumps of the road there. Neepawa was a great place to just get out one evening and just cycle around and enjoy the majestic evenings and the quiet calmness of this town. Turning into a bit of a travel vlog here, aren't you? The quiet tranquility of Neepawa. And all of a sudden,
I'm sure that'll draw in some people, yeah.
All of a sudden it turned into an ASMR as well there for some reason. but no, it's great. And, if you don't want to cycle outside, there's an event going on. Great segue there, wasn't it, Casper? Inside, isn't there? Being put on by Rhythm Cycle.
Yeah, so more cycling.
And more Casper.
Yes.
I swear to you, I actually did write stuff this week. A lot of it's sports related though, and we'll get to some other stuff later. The cool stuff, all the interesting stuff is Casper's this week. It's just, that's why you're not hearing much of me right now.
Well, you've got a big story coming up, so we'll get to that soon. But yeah, actually this weekend, this was unfortunately a very sort of tight notice story to get in here, just in terms of when it's happening, when our paper comes out. But this weekend on the 25th, yes, the 25th, there is going to be a spin-a-thon from the Rhythm Cycle Club being put on in support of Dream Ride for this year. As well, in conjunction with that, they're having a barbecue. So that will be going on from 11 to, I believe, 1 p.m., possibly 3. I don't have the time highlighted there, but be sure to take a look at the story because it is in there. And drop by there, give your support to the cyclists, and pick up some nice food as well.
What was interesting as well about this, Casper, you talk about it, there was a really short scheduled turnaround on this. I mean, from the moment we sort of learned the details of this to gathering up the information, this was a date cruncher, wasn't it?
It sure was, but I was able to get the interview quite quickly and pull it together so that we could have it in time for this week, just ahead of the event, and very happy to do so. The Dream Ride is a very wonderful cause to be able to highlight and raise awareness of so people can support it. It's all about making kids' dreams come true. So.
And again, I mean, to sort of broaden the conversation on that, we talk about the crunch of time and scheduling when it comes to putting together this paper. There's a few examples of it in this week's edition. There's a 1 or 2 thumbs up that came in, but they came in a little later. They came in on Wednesday during the day. We had pages set up. We had certain schedule commitments, so we weren't able to get them on the page this week. That's why I promise you they will appear in next week's edition of the Banner Press. And that's just the reality of the paper. Sometimes you just run out of space. People think, well, why don't you just, make more pages? And that's the little fine balance. We've talked about this many a time. You're probably sick of me talking about it, but if you're a new viewer, it's always good to be educated on this. Really, a healthy newspaper should have anywhere between about 40 to 60% advertising in it. So if you've got 20 pages, if you've got 8 pages of advertising, that's good. That's a very positive. That's a healthy version of a paper. You can get away with 35%. You can even get away with 30%. Some papers, some inexplicably, end up only having 10%. I don't know how they keep the doors open when they do it like that, but they seem to. But it's one of those interesting things. If you ever pick up a paper and you just go through and you look at the number of ads, oh, that's a full page. Oh, that's 2 pages. Oh, that's a quarter page. That's what keeps us. That's what keeps us in this office, in this building, the advertising, which we are greatly appreciative of. This week's paper, in fact, was almost 9 3/4 pages. And it turned into 8 3/4 pages, which, again, for a 20-page paper, is healthy and exactly where you want it to be. So that's a positive. That's the reality of newspapers. Quite honestly, I would probably love it if it was just all news. But the reality is you've got to pay the bills for the lights. You've got to pay the bills for employees. You've got to pay the bills, not just for us, but for all the people behind the scenes that make up this, to make this paper a reality. So that's what that's all about. I segued off a little bit on that, but that's because we got a little bit of time to sort of go on this, and that's what this show is about. It's about the little stories behind the stories. If you want a verbatim sort of discussion of the articles, you do have other shows. I mean, NAC TV reads the news, a consistent show that appears each and every week right here. Check your local listings if you'd like to see that. So yeah, this is more we're shooting the breeze, just talking about what's been on the go, and that's what comes off the cuff here.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to get a behind the scenes of different things. I know that's something I enjoy, at least. And I guess one thing we can mention as well that you might not know is with a newspaper, at least ours, and I'm sure others as well. I'm assuming it works the same way for everybody. But we actually have to do our pages at certain number increments. and it goes up by 4. So if we can't just like add a single page if we're like, oh, we really need like one more page.
Yep.
No, we'd have to add 4 pages. So that would be like 3 more pages that we have to add, depending what we want to do. So she's like, okay, we need to make a decision. Can we fill this to this number and have it be a nice, good, full paper? Is it going to be a bit loose?
Yep.
Is it going to be too tight? Do we need to go more? Do we need to go down? And just sort of try and play things by ear there.
And it's interesting. The last 3 weeks are actually very good examples of it. 2 weeks ago now, we had one section and it was 16 pages. Why? Because, ads were a little light there. We had enough for about just under 7 pages. And quite honestly, as I've said in the show, I got a little lazy that week. I'm not going to lie. I sort of coasted a little bit. Don't tell Ken about that. All right. So that was that. Then last week we had 40 pages, 2 sections. We had the huge 20-page graduation that we do each and every year, really put together in a tremendous way by Diane Warner. I'm pretty much hands-off on that, Casper. You for the most part, you're a little more hands-on, but a little more hands-off as well.
Pretty much just like look through the pages, see if there's any like weird spelling that, well, at least if I know if it's not correct spelling, because I don't know these people. I don't know their names. It could be spelled like that for all I know. But just if there's like dates or whatever that we need to fix up, so maybe we missed one here, then I'll take a look at that. I'll give it a little circle and we'll fix it up after. Yeah,
that's right. And our A section was 20 pages because I actually put in a little more effort last week. Got a few more stories in before we hit our deadline. And again, this week as well, 20 pages. We were able to do a lot of articles. Quite honestly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's about 12 or 13 in-house articles or along those lines. It was a really good week for some local content, so it made it very easy to fill those 20 pages. And one of the stories that helped to fill those 20 pages is this one right here. An annual event, the luncheon and grant distribution for Beautiful Plains Community Foundation. This year I went down there and attended the event. It's actually the first time I think I've ever attended it myself. In previous years, we've had other reporters cover it all throughout the years. So this was my first year sort of being there live and in person, and it was great. It was wonderful to see all these different groups getting supported in this way, and especially the amounts that were being distributed. Beautiful Plains Community Foundation, they have their annual report. It's a center spread in this week's paper, but right next to it, you can read about it, $211,553, a huge amount. And actually what's interesting, and Casper, I'll throw to you on this as well, is because in your Looking Back feature, which you do each and every week, you're talking about, and I think it was in 2002, where they were talking about they handed out over $90,000 worth of grants, one of their largest amounts ever for the time. So holy cow, what a difference 21 years makes.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating and honestly awesome to see how it's grown so that they're able to give out these incredible amounts. It's a community group for community. And so, them being able to support so many different things in such a huge and meaningful way is always awesome to see. And we're very lucky to have a group like that in the area.
That's right, 54 local groups and individual organizations. And when I say local, I just don't mean Neepawa. I mean the surrounding areas as well. This is a big part. They don't want to be just a Neepawa-centric sort of organization. They hit every different RM within our region, within our near region, which is wonderful. There's so many great things that are going on out and about. So to be able to see that type of support is just tremendous. The biggest ticket item, though, that was money that was given out was $60,544. That was handed out to the Neepawa Health Center. And every year they support Neepawa Health. And that adds up after a little while, because that $60,000 put them over a very special number. And that special number is $1 million over 25 years since about 1998. Cumulatively, Beautiful Plains Community Foundation has been able to support the health center to the tune of $1 million. Just imagine what that's been able to purchase. All these certain items, equipment, comfort items for the hospital that maybe the RHA doesn't put into their budget. Every little bit helps. And this is a prime example of it. If you keep putting pennies into a jar, after about a year, that's going to be a real heavy... People don't know what pennies are anymore.
Those don't exist anymore.
What's a penny? And with inflation, let's be honest, nickels and dimes. That's what we're going to have to put in there. So,
yeah.
But it's wonderful to be able to share some of those details, and you can find that on page 9 of this week's edition of the Banner and Press. And as well, the full report, it's in the center spread of this week's paper. Before we wrap up, just really quick, there's so many other things we could talk about. I've got stories about the Titans' schedule for the upcoming season, Neepawa Cubs. They seem to be the cardiac kids when it comes to baseball. Another late game dramatic win. We got a little bit of golf in there as well. But these stories you can find on the pages. Hopefully you'll pick up a copy of it. I just want to preview one last thing. And again, surprise, surprise, it's one of Casper's. You got a great little sort of update on what's on the go with Beautiful Plains Museum.
Yeah, they've been doing quite a lot. They're quite busy, as always. They've been seen to a few different projects. One of these was actually completed last year, but they got the grant money for it just recently this year. And that was the building of a garage to house a few different historical pieces of equipment. A 1942 fire truck and a 1904 Franklin fire wagon, as well as some other pieces of equipment that they're going to be having on display there. So that is all complete. It's not open yet because they're working on some displays in there, but they're hoping to open it closer to the end of the summer, or if they're unable to at that time, then have a grand opening sometime next year, which will be wonderful. I'm really excited to see it, and I think it'll be really interesting to have a look at. As well, they recently were able to, or plan to have, I should say, I'm hoping it was still able to go down with the weather that we had on Monday, but the final sessions for the brickwork at the museum to restore it to more of its original look as a train station, which, you know, is a very important thing. That was in Neepawa, a very historical building there, so being able to get it closer back to its original look is something that they're very excited about. As well, a prospective mural. They're thinking about that. Not quite locked in if they're going to do it or not, but that's something that I've got out in the works and potentially might go forward with.
That's right. And that you can learn a little bit more in this week's edition. We have barely even scratched the surface, to be honest with you. There's so many stories we had to leave to the side. Great update on the Rotary Club acknowledging Plaid for Dad initiative. A submitted article about the journey to restoration for the grotto at St. Rose de Lac. As well, Casper's story about a Neepawa-born woman searching for a birth family. These are the things we didn't have time to talk about that under themselves could have an entire feature, an entire half hour. Obviously, the sports-related stuff, our track and field team as well, the exceptional season our high school track and field team had, record-setting in some ways. Like, that's why you need to find a copy of the Banner and Press. Pick it up for yourself and go through the pages. You can find it anywhere in Neepawa and surrounding communities, including Brandon. Several specific sort of areas in Brandon and businesses in Brandon where you can find physical copies. If you're not able to, every Friday morning we go live on mywestman.ca, and you can find a digital copy that you can scroll through on your phone or on your laptop there. And if you have any story ideas or suggestions, we always do appreciate that. That's why you can give us a call at 476-3401, the number we can be reached at. Or you can reach out to us by email at news@neepawabanner.com. Always appreciate it. We try to get every lead we can chase down, so we appreciate them and we appreciate you. Thank you once again, and we hope you have a great week. And thank you for following the story behind the stories.